It's the Shatkin First Down Pregame Show, presented by Dr. Todd Shatkin and the Aesthetic Associates Center, with your hosts, Rich Gaenzler and Dr. Jared Shatkin. And our special guest, the voice of the Bills, Chris Brown. Now, from the Shatkin Sports Network studios in Amherst, here are your hosts, Rich Gaenzler and Jared Shatkin.
Welcome to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. I'm Rich Gaenzler, Dr. Jared Shatkin, the full cast of Mafia coming up in a little bit. Chris Brown, the play-by-play voice of the Bills, will be joining us in this episode as well. And we start off, as we always do, with the game past. And I would love to be able to write some poetry like Edgar Allan Poe could, but there's nothing to come up with outside of, I mean, there are no words to describe how badly the Bills played against the Ravens, Jared.
Yeah, they got outmatched offensively, defensively, special teams, coaching. They didn't even look like they deserved to be on the same field as the Ravens.
Let's talk about coaching right out of the gate. I was we'll get to the trick play in a second, but the 4th and 2 for me, punting,
yeah.
I was more mad at that than I was at the trick play, having known that they went for a 4th and 1 at their own 39 earlier in the game.
Yeah, well, also earlier in the drive, the first drive, they went for that 4th down, and then it was 4th and 2, and we were across the midfield there. And in my mind, I was like, okay, we're going to go for it again. Yeah. And then they don't do that, and I think that kind of set the tone for the whole game because Baltimore gets the ball back and then runs 87 yards for a touchdown, and we're playing catch-up the rest of the game.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that touchdown. We'll get to the trick play in a second, but, you know, we talked about in last week's show how the Bills were undersized at linebacker, and that was going to be a problem, and it reared its ugly head. I mean, with Ricard being a 300-pound fullback and obviously Henry being whatever he is at 260 at running back, Spector was no match. Dorian Williams was no match. They didn't have a strong safety or a nickel guy that was big enough or strong enough to get off blocks. That was really problematic. And I know we're not going to face that every week, but in that game, the Bills certainly were not prepared for that.
Well, absolutely, we weren't prepared for that. I knew it was going to be a bad matchup, but I thought maybe we'd be a little more aggressive defensively. I think Baltimore had a really good game plan because one of their linemen, I think Lindenberg, in the postgame press conference said, if we see this front, we know we're going to score a touchdown, and that's exactly what happened. Ed Oliver got washed out. Nobody was there to take care of that hole once Henry was there, and the guy can run. He outran a bunch of 26-year-olds, and there he is in the end zone. And someone like Damar Hamlin really showed their speed that game, too. So, I mean, we love to talk about a good feel-good story in Damar Hamlin, but I think maybe it's time to give the guy who just went to back-to-back Super Bowls a shot and let the safety, Mike Edwards, get in there.
I got to tell you, you just sort of brought it up, but there were times in that game where I felt like the Ravens had the Bills playbook. I mean, there was just no answer to anything the Ravens were doing, both offensively and defensively. I mean, we've talked about the rush, but even in the pass game, I mean, Justice Hill against Dorian Williams was a terrible mismatch. And then on Henry's touchdown catch, I said it before it even happened to some friends watching the game. Watch what's going to happen. There's going to be some motion, and they'll roll Henry out of the backfield, and that's exactly what they did, and it was way too easy.
Yeah, the whole game seemed way too easy. It seemed like we could tell what was going to happen. Maybe the Bills could, but they just couldn't stop it.
Let's talk about the trick play. I know everyone's been talking about the Bills had some momentum. They got some stops on D, and that turned the game around. So, again, in conversations leading up to doing the show with friends about that play, I'm trying to think about in my head what that play would have looked like had it not gotten blown up by Kyle Van Noy. And on that play, for me, it epitomized the rest of the game for the Bills because what did they not do? They didn't execute on that play. Mm-hmm. If they block Kyle Van Noy, maybe that trick play works and it's a big play. And in my mind, you've played football, I've played football. I watched that play. What I thought was going to happen is the pitch goes to Josh. Josh basically ends up back near the pocket.
Yeah.
Samuel goes underneath Van Noy and is out in the flat and goes for 50 yards down the field. This would have been an okay play had they just done it like it was supposed to have been done.
Right, but another problem I have with the call is we didn't really set it up. I think Curtis Samuel was never a Wildcat running back that whole game. It's not like they kind of could tell what was happening, and I don't think Curtis Samuel executed that very well either. I think just the execution was way off, and the fact that we were moving the ball already on that drive is what kind of upsets me about a 2nd and 7 play like that, because we had a bunch of successful plays at Keon Coleman, a couple decent runs, and I think if we would have kept going that way, we probably could have got down to the red zone and scored a touchdown.
Yeah, it seems like they use Kincaid a lot. They've done this before in this first quarter of the season where Kincaid gets used a lot at the beginning of the game, then he just kind of fades away into the distance. distance. We don't know where he goes. I also will say, I don't think they used James Cook enough, quite frankly, either in the run or pass game. I just didn't think he had enough touches in that game.
Yeah, and I don't think he looked too bad when he did get the touches. I thought he had a little bit of a burst. I really think the whole entire offensive game plan had a lot of flaws, which Joe Brady said it did. But I think there's also another issue. I think there's some issues with these wide receivers getting
separation.
Yeah. Because if you really look at each play, these guys weren't really open downfield. It was Josh had to make a play. Josh had to make that play to Shakir. It had to be a great play because nobody was open quick. So that's the issue when you get rid of your number one. There's no one you can look to and get it to him right away, and I think it really showed the last game.
Samuel's been a huge disappointment. I don't think even Joe Brady knows where or how to use him.
Yeah.
Even now, at this point, now we're going to our 5th week of the season. That's disappointing. And now the Davante Adams talk comes up this week of where he might end up. He wants out of the Raiders, and some people are saying, well, Bills, go get him. Go get that number one. You got rid of Diggs. Go get that guy. Now, are the Bills open to doing that? I don't know.
Yeah, but we got our guys. But when there's somebody like Davante Adams to come in, he would definitely enhance the team. You would rather have him than Mac Hollins at the X.
100%. I say get Davante Adams. Valdez-Scantling, send him over to Kansas City, get a draft pick for him, and everything's all square. All right, we'll take a quick break. Chris Brown comes up next, the voice of the Bills, as we continue with the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show.
RV shoppers shop the lowest prices of the year during the Inventory Reduction RV Show, October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds. We're making room for new 2025 models and everything must go. October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds in Hamburg. Online at MyersRVs.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Shatkin here with Hall of Fame running back Thurman Thomas.
My family and I have been coming to Dr. Shatkin's dental office for years. The office is beautiful and the staff is outstanding.
Thanks, Thurman. It's been an honor for me to take care of you and your family.
For a Hall of Fame smile, go where the pros go. Dr. Todd Shatkin at the Aesthetic Associates Center.
Call today for a free consultation, 839-1700.
All right, we're joined by the voice of the Bills, old friend Chris Brown. We used to do radio together back in the day, and he has gone on to do wonderful things. Brownie, I cannot believe it's been this long for you to get a spot in the basement.
Yeah. What did I do wrong?
I think you got a little busy. Great to see you. Congratulations, obviously. And are you used to getting called the voice of the Bills yet? Has that sunk in?
Yeah, I don't think I've used that term yet for myself. It still doesn't feel, I don't know, it feels a little awkward. I prefer radio play-by-play broadcaster. I don't know if there's something about the voice of the Bills that just sounds a little pretentious if you say it yourself when you're that person. So yeah. I'll leave that to everybody else.
Okay. Let's talk the Raven game. Where do you think the Bills were most exposed in that game?
I just think it was a bad night overall. They lost at the line of scrimmage. I think we knew going in, I was talking to Eric Wood about this in the pregame, that this was going to be arguably their most physical game of the season. There might be others down the stretch here. The Jets defense is very physical too, coming up in a couple of weeks here. But we thought it was going to be a physical game, primetime atmosphere. Ravens are going to be juiced. You got to be ready for that. And I just did not feel that they were ready for that. Now, that's not to say the Bills can't play physical, because in the previous 3 games, I thought they were whipping people at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. But they just did not have the same juice that the Ravens did. And that's kind of the way this league is. Like, if you don't bring your best to every game you play, you could very easily get embarrassed, even by a middle of the road team. I think we all see the Ravens as an upper echelon team. So you don't bring your best against them, they're going to embarrass you. And I don't really feel like it was a size thing or a scheme thing necessarily. I mean, I think the coaches for the Ravens did do a great job, had a great game plan, and their players just flat out executed better than Buffalo's did. But I thought there was an energy and an urgency. I mean, even Josh referred to it after the game. He said they had a greater urgency than us in the game, and I think that translated into more physical play throughout.
What did you make of the trick play real quick?
I think the most unfortunate thing about calling that trick play is just by having Curtis Samuel in the shotgun and Josh out wide to the left, it's already an alert like something's coming here.
Right.
So I just feel like if you were going to call a trick play there, call one that's more disguised within the normal framework of your formation. Don't give that to him before you even snap the football. Because Van Noy said after the game, as soon as I saw Josh lined up out wide and Samuel in the shotgun, I was pissed. He's like, you're going to play this game with us when we're manhandling you? He's like, so right from there, I wanted to blow the whole thing up.
What do you make of, and how much will it hurt the Bills in terms of Von Miller's suspension?
I mean, the timing's never good on a suspension, but in this stretch of games, knowing he's going to miss these two, Texans-Jets, is kind of tough to take. You could almost see Coach McDermott this week, in the press conference on Wednesday, basically saying, you could almost sense he was a little frustrated by it, but you really don't have any choice. I mean, I suppose Von could appeal if he wanted to, but we haven't heard anything about that even taking place. So it looks like he's just going to sit and take it.
Who do you think's got the more pressure on them this week?
Obviously, you could make the case that the Texans can use this as a measuring stick game for them to vault them into the upper echelon conversation, even though they were everybody's media darling going into the season with, the big offseason signings that they had, the trade acquisition of Diggs. So, I know, by the way, they have a great young quarterback, but I'm very curious to see how the Texans handle a first place schedule. They got to play Baltimore later this year. They have to play Kansas City later this year. So let's see how they do when they have to play first place teams and not last place teams like they did last year when they won the division. And then for the Bills, I don't think they look at it like that. I think they just want to get back on track. I think we're going to get a lot of we just want to go 1-0 this week mantra.
Well, enjoy the call. We'll be listening. Obviously, we will be continuing to listen and watch on GR and obviously on MSG on your show with Tasker. It was great to finally get you in the basement, my friend, and we really appreciate it, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you. No problem, anytime.
It's apple picking time. When was the last time you bit into an apple? With affordable Shatkin mini dental implants, you can. Stabilize your dentures and replace missing teeth in as little as one visit. You can be you again, only better. Call the Aesthetic Associate Center today at 716-839-1700 for your free consultation.
RV shoppers shop the lowest prices of the year during the Inventory Reduction RV Show, October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds. We're making room for new 2025 models and everything must go. October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds in Hamburg. Online at MyersRVs.com.
Are you hungry? Eat. Stabilize your loose dentures with Shatkin mini dental implants.
My self-esteem wasn't where it should have been because I was really, really self-conscious about my teeth. When I walked into Shatkin Dental, I was instantly ready for the residency program. I knew that that is what I needed. I needed the discount. I needed the dentist that was going to fix everything. My self-esteem is already getting much, much, much higher just from starting the procedures.
Call Shatkin Dental Health today at 43 Smile for quality dental care you can afford.
Welcome back to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. Thanks to Chris Brown for joining us from the Bills broadcast team. It's time to go inside the pocket. All right, with the Offensive Player of the Year in the Indoor Football League, San Antonio Gunslingers, and getting ready for another year, Sam Castronova, Buffalo kid, doing great. He works over and talks about the quarterback every week, and let's talk about C.J. Stroud, a guy that is at the top of the league, if I'm not mistaken, in yards per game, almost 300 yards per game for the Texans, and obviously now adds Diggs to his repertoire in terms of receiver core. Tell us about C.J. Stroud. How do you beat him?
Yeah, I mean, super impressive rookie season. I think started a little bit of that sophomore slump the first couple games, and seemed like last week he definitely got back into a big rhythm. So it's going to be a test for our secondary for sure.
What do you do up front. I mean, obviously it seems like he's a guy that is a really composed young quarterback. Pressure just doesn't affect him at all.
Yeah, I mean, even last year he had a rough O-line. He stood in the pocket and delivered some strikes. So maybe mix some stuff up, disguises, send some different blitz packages instead of just sitting in our cover two the whole time.
Yeah, all right, well, we'll see what happens for sure. Obviously, we're going to have to bring some pressure, and we'll see what the safeties do. A much different game than what it was against the Ravens for sure. A lot less athletic. He doesn't run a lot, does Stroud, so we'll see what happens. Stay right here for the Mafia. That's coming up right now. Welcome back to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. The Mafia is gathered. You just saw Sam, obviously, inside the pocket. But Evan's back again. Evan Harrington, WNY Athletics. Scott Marston's here as well from the Rotary Club. You got a big shredding event happening this weekend?
We have a great event on the 19th of October right here at Shatkin Dental. We'll be doing our third ever shredded event as we're raising money for some of our local charities in the town of Amherst, including two of our wonderful food pantries as we get time to this need of the season. This is a big fundraiser for us, so hope we can make it out here.
So we just drop the stuff up to you and you take care of it?
9 to noon, $10 a banker's box. Come on out. We'll take it from you.
Fantastic. I'm going to start with you and talk about this past game, this past week. I know before we start rolling here, you're like, got that game out of our system. We got it over with. Personally, for me, Scott, I didn't like the sort of nonchalantness, I just made up the word, that the team, I feel, has had since that loss. Didn't feel like anybody was mad about that loss. And I get it. You're not going to run the table, and I get it. They're a really good team. But the Bills got blown out in that game. They didn't play one part of their team, not one special teams, offense, defense. Nobody played well in that game. What was your takeaway from that game?
I thought the matchup was a bad matchup from the get-go. I thought that with the injuries we had on defense, it played right into the strengths of Baltimore. We all know that Jackson is a very elusive quarterback and Henry's a very big back. Spector and Williams were completely overmatched. We didn't have a good nickel cornerback to follow around Jackson. The Bills have games like this. In our Super Bowl run, it was every year there would be a blowout in Kansas City on a Monday night, it seemed like. This is not unusual. I think the team's probably not panicking about it. It's early in the season. They're going to lick their wounds. They'll be ready for this week.
But, Evan, it is the first time in, 43 games that the deficit has been more than 6 points in a Bills loss. That's pretty significant, I think.
Yeah, that was an NFL record holding until the Bills' 35-10 loss against the Ravens. And I'm kind of in the middle where I'm kind of glad we got this type of loss out of our system, but at the same time, it is a little bit worrisome because we don't have the pieces like Terrell Bernard back yet, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano, who may not even return this entire season, if not very late into the season. And now other teams know how to kind of play the Buffalo Bills from on their offense to our defense, and that's just kind of punching us in the mouth. And that's what Baltimore did to us this past Sunday night, was they attacked our weakness. Their strength went up against our weakness, and it showed on the field that, hey, as good as this Bills team was the first 3 weeks, they have an identity that is kind of weak, and that's the middle linebacker spot, the outside linebacker spot, and the nickel corner, and that's what Baltimore really exposed.
Sure. Quarterback, I thought, Josh, we've been mentioning this every single week we've done the show this year, that he and the offense looked really relaxed the first 3 games of the season. He looked, to me, panicked in that game. It looked like there were opportunities for him to see a blitz and get out of a play. And I don't remember ever him walking up to the line of scrimmage and making a play call change when he knew or thought that a blitz was coming. And I know we don't like to blame Josh for stuff, right? I mean, famously, right? We don't like to blame Josh. But is it possible that at times he maybe thinks that he himself can get out of situations, and in that game he couldn't?
Yeah, absolutely. He relies on his athleticism sometimes to kind of get out of some pressure situations. But it looked to me like we were pretty badly outcoached. I mean, they were dialing up pressure packages that we, like you said, looked lost for. Like, guys look like they're coming from here, and we had no answer for it. I think part of that's on Brady, and I think part of that's probably on Josh not changing the protection, like you said. But it was definitely eye-opening because our offense has looked so good this year, and they kind of punched us in the mouth, and they blitzed the crap out of us.
Yeah, they really did, and we had no answer for it. And Jared, for you, last on this game, where was the D-line in this game? I mean, Ed Oliver with another 0 up front, Daquan Jones, we never heard their names mentioned. Even the ends never got their names mentioned. Von Miller played 9 plays. I'm not exactly sure why that was, if they felt like he was only a pass rusher in this game and that he couldn't defend against Derrick Henry. I'm sorry, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Can he not just set the edge, play more than 9 plays? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts are that the game plan defensively was also a little too much relaxing. It was too much spying Lamar Jackson. And when you saw us have any success, it was the second half when we started to blitz and we started to get more aggressive defensively. And I think if you look at that game, and you see that we could have been 21-17, and we call a stupid trick play that gets us turnover, and it gives Baltimore the ball back, and from there they ran with it. I think we were starting to really heat something up defensively, and I think we got to have a little bit of a more aggressive game plan when we play against these teams. We gave Lamar almost too much respect. Yeah. We let him sit in the pocket. We let him find who he was going to throw to, and then our defensive line obviously got outmatched very badly. I think Ed Oliver has to really step up. He hasn't had a very good season to begin with. I think it's time for him to do something. I think Daquan Jones, who we paid a bunch of money, he's had a couple good games, but he should have really showed up a lot better. And I think the safeties are also something that was a little concerning. But for me, it's a little bit of, okay, we got hit in the mouth. Now let's see what we have to do to bounce back.
Yeah, a couple road games coming up, Houston and the Jets. So we got to get your picks for the Houston games, guys. We'll start off with you, Scott. Give me a score prediction. What do you think, Bills and Texans?
I think this is a bounce-back game for the Bills. I think that after getting punched in the mouth, they're going to respond well. Their pride has been hurt. Bills 27, Houston 13.
All right, Evan, how about you?
This is a better matchup for the Bills against Houston than Baltimore, but it's going to be a tough game. I'm going to have the Bills winning 28-23. It's going to be a grueling matchup, and once again, a better matchup than last week.
And Sam?
I'm going to go Bills 35-31.
Okay, another high-scoring game. Mm-hmm. All right, well, the two of us will come back, and we'll talk more about the game in the next segment. But first, we have to do our crossover players. Very simply, I'm going to read off some guys' names. Actually, I'm going to give up the hints. You tell me the names of the guys we're talking about to win gift cards to Sorrentino's over on Main Street. Number 1, played for both teams. This guy played for 9 different teams. In 2014, he was at the helm for the Texans, went 6-6 as the starting quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick is right. Yes, that's number 1. Number 2, how about another quarterback that played for both teams? This guy played 6 games for the Texans in 2021. He also He also, like Fitz, has been a journeyman. He's played for 7 different teams in the league and is still active in the league in our division. Who might that have? Tyrod Taylor. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And finally, this guy's sort of in the mold. What? Tyrod, my bad. You're bad. In the mold of Andre Johnson, this guy was big and fast, had great hands, wore 84 for the Texans in 2006. Eric Moulds. Yeah. Right on. You guys are eating. You're eating at Sorrentino's. Nice job, fellas, and nice job, Mafia. All right, we'll break down the Bills and the Texans. Dr. Jared and myself, when we come back on the Shatkin F.I.R.S.T Buffalo pregame show.
Wow! What a difference a smile makes. Embarrassed to smile? Call us today for a free consultation.
RV shoppers shop the lowest prices of the year during the Inventory Reduction RV Show, October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds. We're making room for new 2025 models and everything must go. October 2nd through 6th at the Erie County Fairgrounds in Hamburg. Online at MyersRVs.com.
It means a lot to be able to work with my dad to continue this legacy that we have going on.
I had many implants. Once I got them, it was like the old me came back.
The changes you can make in such a short period of time in somebody's life, have somebody in the chair crying because they finally have a full set of teeth. And I think the only way to do it in that type of time period for that type of price is really the mini implant.
Mini dental implants can change your life too. Call us at 839-1700 for a free consultation.
Welcome back to the Shatkin F.I.R.S.T Buffalo pregame show. Time to talk about the Bills and the Texans right behind us. Rich Gaenzler, Dr. Jared Shatkin. Obviously, first of 2 road games, obviously a playoff team. Obviously, they, like the Bills, have beaten some very average teams coming into this game. Mixon questionable coming in. Stroud, obviously, we know what he is. He leads the league in passing yards with almost 300 yards per game. They do pass on first down more than anybody else. So you can probably expect that. And Stroud also, surprisingly, doesn't run very much. He looks like an athlete, but he's run for an average of 10 yards a game. So he's not a runner. They're not going to do a lot of RPOs with him. He's basically going to be a pocket passer and spread it around to Nico Collins and Steph Diggs and everybody else on that team. So your first look at this game, what do you think?
I think it's a difficult matchup for the Bills defensively, but I think it's a better matchup than Baltimore was. I think it plays into our game plan of keeping everything in front of us. I'm anticipating that C.J. Stroud is going to throw for a lot of yards this week. I'm also anticipating that Stephon Diggs is going to have a good revenge game, but I don't think that has to determine whether we're going to win and lose. I think our game plan can include the fact that those guys are going to get theirs, and we still just have to make those turnover plays and those big game-changing plays.
Whose game is this to be more urgent in, do you think?
Oh, I think it's probably the Texans. I think they want to prove that they're with the cream of the crop in the AFC. They're one with the Chiefs, they're one with the Bills, they're one with the Bengals, who really aren't much right now, with the Ravens. I think it's more urgent for the Texans to win this game, but I think there's also a lot of urgency in that Bills locker room to win this game. I think it's a great matchup. I think it's going to be a really high-intensity game. It will feel like a playoff game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because no one's really, at least earlier in this week, not a lot of people were talking about Diggs. I mean, we thought Diggs was going to be everything. That's kind of why I'm happy the last week's game happened. Otherwise, this is going to be Diggs 24/7, right? Now it's kind of at a reasonable level where we can kind of all break it down and look at it that way without just everything being Diggs and everything being personality conflict or whatever it was that made him go away. I think this is a great game for the Bills. If you look at it statistically, Stroud's been sacked a bunch of times in this game. They give up a lot of yards on the ground, and they don't give up a lot of yards passing either. Well, guess what? When the Bills were most successful this year, what did they do? They ran the ball a ton, and Josh was under typically 200 yards passing. So all of it goes right into the wheelhouse for the Bills, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think this matchup is great for us, and I think the people in Vegas saw it, and they made us a 1-point favorite on the road. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a close game. The Texans show up, and they play hard football, and they got a lot of guys who can get after the passer. They got Darnell Hunter. They got
Will Anderson.
Yeah, they got a bunch of dudes there. It's not going to be a rollover game. We are going to have to step up, and I almost think that losing that Baltimore game hopefully gave the Bills a little bit of a shot to say, oh, okay, now we got teams that have some talent. We got to start playing. We got to practice hard, and we got to get out there and have some more intensity.
Yeah, they would call that a wake-up call. Hopefully that's what happened from the Ravens game. Let's get your prediction.
I think the Bills are going to win in a close game. I like 31-28.
31-28.
Not a Tyler Bass winning field goal. Okay.
All right, fair enough. Man, I am torn because originally when we opened the season, I had the Bills finishing 9-8, and I think I had them losing this game. And this is a very tough game for me to pick because I think they're very close. They're very close. I think the Bills will have more talent in the end, and I think the Bills will win this as well. But I think it's going to be 23-20, the Bills getting a victory on the road against Houston. They need it desperately. They really do, with the Jets coming up, a divisional game. And if the Jets were to add Devontae Adams, and it sounds like that's where he wants to go back with Aaron Rodgers, that's going to make them even more dangerous in that game in 2 weeks on the road down there. All right, that'll do it. Thanks to Aesthetic Associates, Shatkin Dental, Todd Shatkin, Sorrentinos, and Myers, and of course you for watching. For Dr. Jared Shatkin and our entire crew, go Bills. This has been the Shatkin First Down Buffalo Pregame Show.
In the Pocket is sponsored by Mini Dumpster Rental. Call 716-429-6362. This has been a production of the Shatkin Sports Network.